What if the reason you feel stuck isn't because you're lazy or lost, but because you've been chasing the wrong thing your entire life? Think about it. From the moment you were old enough to dream, you probably knew what lit you up. That thing you could do for hours without noticing time passing. That fire inside you, wild, untamed, alive. Maybe it was drawing, writing, solving problems, building things, creating music, helping people. You knew what made your soul feel real. But somewhere along the way, that light started to dim. Not because you changed, but because the world told you to. They said, that's not realistic. That won't make money. Be practical. Grow up. And so you did. You got in line. You played it safe. You did what you were told. You stopped listening to your heart and started listening to fear disguised as advice. And slowly, without realizing it, you traded your passion for a paycheck. Now you wake up to alarms you hate, drag yourself through days that don't excite you, and chase goals that don't even feel like yours. You tell yourself it's just life, that everybody feels this way. But deep down, you know something is missing. It's not motivation you lack, it's meaning. You see, most people aren't burned out from working too hard. They're burned out from not doing what sets their soul on fire, from putting effort into things they don't care about, from ignoring that quiet voice that whispers, this isn't who I really am. Here's the truth. No one wants to admit you can succeed at the wrong thing. You can climb the ladder of success and find it's leaning against the wrong wall. You can make money, gain respect, even impress people, and still feel completely empty. Because fulfillment doesn't come from what you earn. It comes from what you give through the work that feels true to who you are. That's the real definition of doing what you love. Not some fantasy where every day is easy, but the kind of work that matters so deeply to you that you're willing to suffer for it, to fail for it, to keep going when no one's clapping. That kind of love, it's not soft. It's fierce. It makes you show up differently. And here's the part most people miss. That kind of love has a way of attracting everything you need. Energy, discipline, growth, even money. Not because you're chasing the money, but because you're becoming someone who can earn it on your own terms. But before any of that can happen, you have to make a decision. A real one. Not someday. Not when it's convenient. Now. You have to be willing to get uncomfortable. To stop betraying your gift for the sake of safety, to risk being seen trying, because the truth is the pain of not doing what you love never really goes away. You just learn to live with it. But that pain, it's not meant to be ignored. It's a signal, a reminder that something inside you still believes there's more to life than survival. That's the reward of staying with this, of hearing this message all the way through. Because on the other side of your hesitation is clarity. Not the kind you wait for, but the kind you create by finally asking yourself the hard question, what would my life look like if I had the courage to follow what I love? Most people never answer it honestly. They're too afraid of what it might demand of them. But not you. You're here because a part of you is already awake, already searching, already done with settling. You're not here by accident. You're here because something inside you knows you were made for more. And maybe, just maybe, you're ready to stop wondering what if and start living like you were meant for this. So stay with it. Keep going. Because by the end of this, you might just see your life and your future in a completely different way. But the moment you decide to follow what you love, something strange happens. The world doesn't instantly open its arms. In fact, it often pushes back. People doubt you. Some smile politely but think you've lost your mind. Others say nothing, but their silence speaks loud enough. You'll hear the warnings. It's risky. What if it doesn't work? What's your backup plan? And if you're not careful, those voices start to sound like your own. Because we've been conditioned to trust fear more than we trust ourselves. We were raised in a system that rewards conformity, not creativity. That praises obedience, not originality. You were never taught how to follow your passion. You were taught how to follow instructions. Sit still, follow the rules, fit the mold. And if you didn't, you were labeled as unrealistic, impulsive, or irresponsible. But here's the truth. Following what you love doesn't make you reckless. It makes you alive. And yet most people choose the cage, a golden cage maybe. One with benefits, security, and a predictable routine, but a cage nonetheless, comfortable enough to numb the pain, busy enough to drown out the truth. And slowly, day by day, that fire you once had becomes an ember, faint, quiet, hidden behind responsibilities and expectations you never asked for. But you feel it, don't you? That low, constant ache, that voice inside that says this isn't all there is. It's not complaining. It's not being ungrateful. It's calling you. calling you back to the path you were meant to walk. And every time you ignore it, you don't just lose time, you lose yourself. Because this isn't about chasing a fantasy. This is about reclaiming your identity. You were not put here just to pay bills and wait for weekends. You were not born just to blend in and die with your dreams still inside you. There's something in you that the world needs, something that only you can give. But if you don't protect it, if you don't nurture it, the world will bury it in noise and fear and distraction, and you'll wake up one day wondering where the years went and why you feel so far from who you used to be. That's why this matters. Not because passion is easy, but because passion is honest. It demands that you show up. It forces you to grow. It challenges you to stay when it gets hard, not because you have to, but because you want to. That kind of devotion, that's where fulfillment is born, not in applause, not in quick wins, but in knowing that your effort means something, that your time wasn't wasted, that your life is aligned with what you truly value. But to get there, you have to confront the biggest lie of all, that safety is more important than purpose. Safety feels good for a while, but eventually it starts to shrink you. You become afraid to try, afraid to fail, afraid to want more. And that fear doesn't protect you. It paralyzes you. It convinces you to stay small, to play roles you've outgrown, to silence your voice just to be accepted. But deep down, you know this. No amount of comfort can replace the feeling of living a life that's truly yours. So you have a choice. You can keep dimming your light to fit in. Keep walking a path that doesn't belong to you. Keep trading years for security while your soul starves. Or you can take the first step, not all the steps, just the first one, the one that says, I choose me. Not because it's easy, but because it's right. Because nothing changes until you do. Not the job, not the money, not the world around you. It all starts with a decision to stop settling and start showing up for the life you were meant to live. And the moment you make that choice, truly make it, something powerful happens. The world starts to rearrange itself around your courage. You begin to notice new ideas. You attract different people. You see doors that were invisible before, not because they suddenly appeared, but because now you're finally awake enough to see them. That's the hidden power of doing what you love. It opens your eyes. It sharpens your focus. It fills your days with energy, not obligation. And no, it won't always be easy, but the hard days are easier to survive when you're climbing the right mountain. So don't wait for permission. Don't wait for perfect timing. Don't wait for proof. Be the proof. Start messy. Start scared. Start now. Because the longer you wait, the louder regret becomes. And the cost of staying stuck will always be greater than the cost of trying. The life you want is not as far as it seems. It begins with one decision, one moment of courage, one step toward the thing that makes you feel most alive. And that step is still waiting for you. Every step you take toward what you love will challenge you, not just on the outside, but within. You'll face parts of yourself you've spent years avoiding. The doubt, the fear, the voice that says you're not ready, that you're not talented enough, smart enough, disciplined enough. That voice doesn't speak truth. It speaks history. It's the echo of every time you played it safe. Every time you listen to someone else's opinion over your own inner knowing. But that voice isn't your enemy. It's your invitation. It shows up when you're close to something meaningful, when you're standing on the edge of change. Fear always shows up when you're doing something that matters. That's how you know you're on the right path. Most people wait for confidence before they move. They wait to feel sure, but confidence doesn't come first. Action does. You don't become ready, you decide to begin. And with each small step, confidence is built, not found, not gifted, built. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to care enough to start, to trust that your love for something is reason enough to follow it, not to impress anyone, not to prove anything, but because it's yours. And that makes it sacred. There's a reason passion feels different from everything else. It's not a random feeling. It's not just preference. It's a compass, a call toward alignment. That deep internal pull isn't asking for your permission. It's waiting for your participation. It's telling you where your energy belongs, where your time should be spent, where your effort will feel like fuel instead of a burden. The world needs more people who are lit up from the inside, not drained by what they do, but driven by it, not chasing a finish line, but creating a life that feels meaningful in the process. That kind of fire is rare. And when you protect it, when you lean into it, something powerful begins to shift, not just in your results, but in your identity. You stop waking up dreading the day. You stop numbing your joy to survive your schedule. You start walking taller, speaking clearer, showing up with more conviction, because you're no longer wearing a life that doesn't fit. That shift is real. And it's not just emotional, it's biological. Research shows that when people do work aligned with their values and passions, their brains function differently. Focus sharpens, creativity spikes, resilience increases, the mind becomes clearer, the body becomes more energized, because you're not working against yourself anymore, you're working with your design. But this path is not paved with guarantees. It's not a promise of instant rewards. It's a commitment. And most won't make it, not because they can't, but because they give up too early, because they expect the path of purpose to be paved with applause. But in the beginning, it's paved with silence, with uncertainty, with the grind of building something from nothing but belief. That's the test. That's where most people quit. Not because it wasn't working, but because it wasn't working fast enough. You have to be willing to outlast the discomfort, to trust the process long before the process proves itself, to plant seeds day after day, knowing they won't bloom tomorrow, but believing they will bloom because you kept going. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop chasing money for its own sake and start chasing mastery, love, and purpose, money stops running from you, because now you're adding real value. You're not just taking up space, you're changing space. And people pay for transformation, not imitation. But if your love is tied to approval, if you only pursue what matters when it's easy, you'll never reach the depth where the real magic happens. You'll bounce from idea to idea, from high to high, always starting, never staying. But when you love something deeply enough to keep showing up, even when no one's watching, that's where growth begins. That's where you build something unshakable. So stop waiting for a sign. This is your sign. Stop waiting for everything to be in place. Start where you are with what you have, because waiting doesn't protect you. It postpones you. And the longer you delay your calling, the louder your regrets will become. You don't have to take the biggest leap today, but take one that scares you, one that excites you, one that reminds you you're alive. Because action, no matter how small, is a declaration of belief. This is how you take your power back. Not by doing everything perfectly, but by doing what you love and doing it on purpose, again and again. Until the world can't ignore what you've built, until your life reflects the fire you refuse to put out. That fire is still in you. It's never left. It's just been waiting for you. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You just need to believe in yourself enough to begin. Because the truth is, most people won't understand your path. Not at first. They'll question why you're choosing uncertainty over comfort, why you'd walk away from what's secure to chase something invisible, something unproven. But what they don't see is that your soul is starving. And safety that suffocates your spirit is not safety, it's surrender. There is a cost to staying where you don't belong. It's paid in quiet frustration, in restlessness, in the slow erosion of your potential. Every time you say yes to what's expected and no to what you love, you chip away at your own authenticity. And over time, you forget what it even felt like to be fully alive. But that spark inside you, that thing you thought you lost, it's still there. Buried under doubt, under fear, under years of doing what you were told instead of what you were called to do. It hasn't died. It's just been waiting for you to listen. And when you finally do, when you begin to move in the direction of what sets your soul on fire, something powerful happens, you remember who you really are. Not the version the world molded, but the real you, the one who dreamed before the world taught you to shrink, the one who wasn't afraid to want more, to believe more, to try even if failure was part of the deal. Because doing what you love isn't about chasing a fantasy. It's about choosing a life that reflects your truth, a life where your work and your values are no longer strangers, a life where you no longer have to split yourself into pieces just to fit in. And yes, it takes courage, real courage. Not the loud, dramatic kind, but the quiet, steady kind. The kind that shows up every day, even when no one notices. The kind that keeps going after the excitement fades and the results are slow. That kind of courage doesn't come from hype. It comes from commitment. And commitment is what separates those who talk about change from those who create it. You don't need to quit your job tomorrow or flip your life upside down overnight, but you do need to stop lying to yourself. You do need to stop pretending you're fine when you know you're not. You do need to stop telling yourself you'll start later, because later becomes never. And dreams that live in someday eventually die in silence. You owe it to yourself to try. Not because success is guaranteed, but because regret is. Regret is the price you pay when you ignore what matters. It's the weight that builds quietly over time. And nothing is heavier than the question, what if I had just gone for it? You won't always feel ready. That's normal. But readiness is a myth. No one is ever fully ready to become who they're meant to be. Growth doesn't wait for permission. It demands movement. And the sooner you begin, the sooner you'll discover that you were capable all along. That's when momentum kicks in. That's when fear loses its grip, because now you're moving. Now you're learning. Now you're growing. And the more you grow, the more you realize that you're not stuck. You were just standing still. And with every step you take, you become someone different, someone stronger, more focused, more awake, not because the road is easy, but because it's real. And real is what you've been craving all along. You don't have to change the world overnight, but you can start by changing your world, by showing up, by doing what matters, by doing it scared, by doing it tired, but still doing it, because your future is worth the fight. No one can walk this path for you. No one can give you the answers. But the truth, you already have them. You've always had them, buried under the noise, drowned out by doubt. But they're still there, quiet, waiting, ready. The life you want won't happen by accident. It happens when you decide you're done living half alive, when you choose alignment over approval, passion over permission, and purpose over fear. This isn't just about work. It's about identity. It's about remembering that your time here is limited and that trading your fire for comfort is not a fair exchange. You are not here to blend in. You are here to rise, to build, to serve, to create, to live fully. And the moment you choose that, truly choose it, you begin to change everything. So let this be the moment you stop waiting. Let this be the line you draw in the sand. The day you decided your dream was worth the risk, that you were worth the risk. Because deep down, you already know what to do. Now, it's time to do it. When you finally begin, when you take that first step toward what lights you up, the world starts to shift in ways you never imagined. Not because it gets easier, but because you get stronger. The fear doesn't vanish, but your purpose gets louder. Your clarity sharpens. You stop waking up with dread in your chest and start rising with intention in your heart. You begin to understand that doing what you love isn't selfish. It's your responsibility. Because when you operate from a place of passion, you don't just improve your own life, you uplift others. Your energy becomes contagious. Your drive inspires. Your courage gives people permission to listen to their own inner voice. You become a living reminder that another way is possible. That's the real power of purpose. It multiplies. It doesn't end with you. It expands through you. And yet most people hold back because they believe they're not ready to be that kind of force. They wait until they're experts, until they feel perfect, until every step is mapped out. But greatness doesn't come from waiting. It comes from moving while it's still messy, while you're still figuring it out, while your voice still shakes and your hands still tremble. No one becomes legendary by avoiding discomfort. Every breakthrough begins with uncertainty. Every success story starts in the shadows, long before the spotlight ever arrives. What sets people apart isn't talent or timing. It's refusal. Refusal to quit. Refusal to be ordinary. Refusal to let fear write the story. You're not too late, you're not behind, and you're not lacking. You're just at the edge of a decision to stop surviving and start living intentionally. And that decision changes everything. Because the moment you commit, you stop negotiating with your excuses. You stop waiting for someone to validate your dream. You stop asking the world to believe in you, and instead you show the world why it should. That's when momentum builds. Not because the outside world changes, but because your inner world does. Your mindset elevates, your habits sharpen, your vision becomes non-negotiable. You no longer entertain things that drain you. You no longer tolerate environments that silence you. You start making choices that align with the future you're building, not the past you're escaping. And you realize something that most people never see. The journey is the reward. It's not about a finish line. It's not just about money, recognition, or applause. It's about who you become through the process, the grit you gain, the wisdom you earn, the self-respect that comes from knowing you didn't back down from your calling, that regardless of what the world said, you showed up, you dared, you tried. There's freedom in that. Not the kind of freedom that's handed to you, but the kind you earn. The kind that lives in your chest when you know you're walking in alignment with your truth. That's the kind of freedom that can't be bought, faked, or copied. It's yours, and no one can take it from you. And once you've tasted that freedom, going back is no longer an option. You'll never again settle for a life that silences your soul. You'll never again choose convenience over conviction. You'll protect your energy like it's sacred, because it is. You'll speak your truth even when your voice shakes, because silence has cost you too much. You'll keep going when it's hard, because what's on the other side is too valuable to abandon. This is what happens when you stop playing small, when you stop waiting to be chosen and choose yourself. That choice opens doors, not immediately, not magically, but eventually, consistently, quietly. Every effort compounds. Every step builds momentum. Every act of courage adds up. And one day you'll look back and realize it was never about luck. It was about refusal to settle, refusal to give up, refusal to forget who you really are, because you were never meant to just get by. You were meant to build, to create, to lead, to express. You were meant to rise, to live with urgency, to leave a mark that whispers, I was here and I did something that mattered. And you don't get that by waiting, or you get it by doing, by risking, by daring to say yes to the thing that keeps calling your name. Yes, it will take time. Yes, it will take effort. But if you're going to spend your life on something, why not spend it on something you love? Something that fills you instead of empties you. Something that brings you alive instead of draining you dry. You don't need a map. You need a reason. And your reason is already within you. It's the thing that keeps pulling you forward even when logic tells you to quit. It's the thing that won't let you rest until you give it breath. That reason is enough. That reason is everything. So step toward it, even if it's slow, even if it's uncertain. Because with every step, you get closer to becoming the person you were always meant to be. And that version of you, that version is unstoppable. There will come a moment when everything inside you whispers to turn back, not because you're weak, but because you're growing. Growth feels like friction. It feels like resistance. And resistance shows up strongest right before your breakthrough. That's not a sign to quit. It's a signal you're moving in the right direction. Discomfort isn't the enemy, it's the doorway. And most never walk through it because they think struggle means failure. But struggle means progress. You are not built to stay the same. You are designed to evolve, to stretch, to reach places that once felt out of range. You grow by doing hard things, by standing in fear, not running from it. That fear is not a stop sign. It's a signal that you're entering the unknown. And the unknown is where possibility lives. People will try to talk you out of it. They'll project their limitations onto your dreams, not because they're malicious, but because your courage exposes their hesitation. Your action reminds them of everything they've avoided, and instead of rising, some will resist. But don't let their fear become your truth. Don't let their doubts become your ceiling. You were given your vision, not them. They don't need to understand it. You need to protect it. You can't afford to keep shrinking to make others comfortable. Playing small doesn't serve the world. It only drains you. It makes you bitter, resentful. You start blaming the world for your own silence. But the world can't hear you if you never speak. It can't reward what you never risked. If you want to be seen, you have to show up. And showing up isn't a one-time decision. It's a lifestyle. You choose to rise again and again, especially when it's hard, especially when the results are slow. That's where self-trust is forged, in the quiet, thankless grind, in the moments no one claps, when there's no audience, no applause, just you, your vision, and your discipline. That's when the foundation is built. That's where character is formed, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows. Success begins in the dark, in those early hours, late nights, repeated efforts, unseen sacrifice. It doesn't look glamorous, but that's where strength is born, through repetition, through resilience, through refusing to give up when it would be easier to walk away. Every great achievement is invisible at first. It starts as a whisper, a thought, a dream, an idea that won't let you sleep. That nagging voice that says you were made for more. Don't ignore it. That's not noise. That's your inner compass begging you to listen. You don't need to leap. You need to move. Tiny steps, daily effort, commitment over motivation. You won't always feel inspired, but discipline doesn't care how you feel. Discipline is the bridge between wanting and having, between dreaming and doing, between almost and finally. And as you keep showing up, something powerful happens. You begin to trust yourself again. That's the real win, not the money, not the status, but the self-respect that comes from knowing you didn't give up on yourself, that you followed through, that you honored your own potential, even when no one else saw it. You become someone who keeps promises to yourself. And that kind of integrity builds inner peace, because now you're not just chasing success. You're becoming it. You're living it. You're breathing it into everything you do. And when that alignment takes hold, your energy shifts. Your focus sharpens. Your life begins to reflect the fire you carry within. Others will notice, not because you're louder, but because your presence is undeniable. You won't have to convince anyone of your worth. They'll feel it because you carry it differently, because you earned it, because you fought for it. And yes, the money will come, but not as a reward for chasing it. It comes as a result of becoming someone who creates undeniable value. Someone who didn't wait for permission. Someone who didn't fold under pressure. Someone who did what they loved and did it so well the world couldn't look away. That's the paradox. When you chase passion with purpose and persistence, success becomes inevitable. Not immediate, not easy, but inevitable. Because you're not forcing it, you're aligning with it. And alignment always creates flow. It opens doors. It attracts opportunity. It magnetizes the right people. Because the world needs what only you can give. You don't need to fake confidence. You build it brick by brick through effort and honesty, through choosing progress over perfection, through betting on yourself even when the odds seem stacked, especially when they seem stacked. You've already survived so much. You've already proven you're capable of more than you realize. Don't let one hard season convince you that you're not worthy of the life you dream of. You are. And you're not here to prove that to anyone else. You're here to become it. That version of you, the one who rises anyway, who chooses passion, who moves through fear, who keeps going long after motivation fades, that version is waiting on the other side of action. And it all begins with a single decision. I will not settle. Not for a dull life. Not for someone else's dream. Not for silence when my voice is ready to speak. Not for average when I know I was made to thrive. Choose to step forward. Choose to rise. Choose to keep going even when no one claps. Because one day they will. But by then you won't need it. You'll already know who you are. Most people live their entire lives on autopilot, following routines they never chose, chasing goals they don't believe in, fulfilling expectations they never agreed to. They don't even realize they've been programmed to survive, not to thrive. They wake up tired, go through motions, and silently wonder if this is all there is. But deep inside, something aches, not for more things, but for more meaning. And that ache is not weakness. It's your wake-up call. The truth is, fulfillment doesn't come from doing what's easy. It comes from doing what's right for you, what stirs your spirit, what stretches your limits, what demands the highest version of yourself to show up. It's not about comfort. It's about connection. Connection to your inner voice, connection to your potential, connection to a purpose that gives your days weight and your actions direction. There's a different kind of energy that flows through you when you're living in alignment. You speak differently. You walk differently. You stop trying to impress and start expressing. You're no longer hustling for validation. You're fueled by conviction. You're no longer running from your life. You're running toward it. That's where power lives. Not in pretending to have it all figured out, but in choosing to move forward anyway. Even when the outcome is uncertain. Even when people don't understand. Even when your path looks nothing like theirs. Especially then, because your journey is not meant to be ordinary. You're not here to follow the script. You're here to write your own. And the moment you take full responsibility for that truth, everything changes. Your mindset shifts from I hope to I will. From maybe someday to I'm starting now. That shift doesn't just transform your results, it transforms your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone chasing a dream and start seeing yourself as someone building it. Brick by brick, day by day, thought by thought. You're not waiting for proof. You become the proof. That's when discipline becomes devotion. You're no longer forcing yourself. You're driven, not by pressure, but by purpose. And purpose makes pain bearable. It gives meaning to the hard days. It gives value to the sacrifices. It reminds you why quitting is not an option. When you're connected to purpose, rejection doesn't break you. Setbacks don't stop you. Criticism doesn't define you because your worth isn't tied to approval. It's tied to alignment. You're no longer addicted to being liked. You're addicted to being real. And that authenticity is rare in a world obsessed with appearances. That's what makes you magnetic. That's what makes you powerful. People can feel when you're on fire. They feel your presence. They trust your words, not because they're perfect, but because they're true. And truth cuts through noise. It connects. It elevates. It ignites something in others. And that's how doing what you love becomes bigger than you. It becomes a ripple effect, a movement, a message that wakes others up to their own potential. That's the kind of life you were meant to lead. One that inspires by example. One that leaves behind more than memories. One that leaves behind momentum. But you can't give what you don't embody. You can't lift others while keeping yourself buried. You have to rise first. You have to do the inner work. You have to reclaim your voice, your value, your vision, because no one else will hand you the life you want. And they shouldn't have to. It's not their job. It's yours. You're not here to be saved. You're here to awaken, or to step into your strength, to break cycles, to challenge limits, to create something that never existed until you decided to show up and build it. And that requires faith, not blind hope, but fierce belief. Belief that your dream is valid, that your effort is sacred, that your time is too precious to waste on a life that doesn't light you up. That belief is your fuel. It carries you when logic fails. It lifts you when the path gets steep. It reminds you that it's not about ease, it's about impact. You are not lost. You are being called, not by the noise outside, but by the fire within. That fire is your guide. It won't always give you answers, but it will always give you direction. Trust it, even when the world says play it safe, even when doubt creeps in, even when nothing around you affirms what you feel inside. Trust it anyway. Because the people who change the world aren't the ones who had perfect plans. They're the ones who refuse to live misaligned, who chose purpose over popularity, truth over comfort, vision over fear. They didn't wait for the path, they created it. And you can too. You don't need permission. You don't need perfection. You just need a reason and the courage to act on it. So act, choose, build, begin. This is your moment. Not someday, not next year, now. There is nothing more dangerous to your potential than waiting for the perfect moment. Perfection is the oldest lie in the world. It convinces you to pause, to doubt, to hold back until conditions are ideal. But the truth is, clarity doesn't come before the first step. It comes because of it. You don't become ready by waiting. You become ready by moving. Progress is what builds confidence. Action is what reveals direction. You don't find your path by thinking, you find it by walking. The mind will give you every reason to hesitate, every fear, every flaw, every what if. That voice isn't there to guide you. It's there to protect you from risk. It wants comfort, safety, familiarity, but none of those things will make you feel alive. What makes you feel alive is growth, challenge, contribution, becoming someone you didn't even know you could be. Every person you admire started where you are, uncertain, unqualified, full of self-doubt, but they chose to act anyway, not because they were fearless, but because they refused to stay stuck. That refusal is power. That refusal is freedom. You don't have to be extraordinary to begin. You become extraordinary by beginning, by taking that first imperfect step, by showing up even when you're scared, especially when you're scared. Fear doesn't mean stop. It means you're doing something that matters. It means you care enough to risk, and that risk is the price of growth. You will never know your full strength until you're forced to use it. You'll never know your full worth until you put it on the line, until you choose belief over doubt, action over excuses, purpose over passivity. Stop negotiating with your potential. Stop bargaining with your greatness. Stop giving yourself a way out every time things get uncomfortable. If it challenges you, it's changing you. If it scares you, it's shaping you. If it stretches you, it's strengthening you. Growth doesn't come from staying where it's safe. It comes from stepping into what's next, even when it terrifies you. You don't owe the world silence. You don't owe it compromise. You owe it yourself, fully expressed. Passion isn't just for your personal joy. It's a signal to your purpose. It's the energy that drives impact. It's what turns a job into a mission, a routine into a legacy, a task into a transformation. But passion alone isn't enough. It must be backed by discipline, by focus, by the willingness to keep showing up when the hype fades. Passion fuels you in the beginning. Purpose sustains you through the storms. But discipline is what carries you to the finish line. That's what separates wishful thinking from real success. That's what turns dreams into results. You weren't given your vision as a tease. You were given it because you have the strength to bring it to life. Not someday, not when you're more prepared, not after you've proven yourself to everyone else. Now, this version of you right now is capable of more than you've allowed. Stop shrinking. Stop stalling. Step forward with what you have, where you are, with everything you've got. No one can give you the life you crave. It's not found. It's forged in the fire of your commitment, in the silence of your daily choices, in the lonely moments when no one sees you, but you keep going anyway. That is where transformation lives. That is where identity is built. You don't rise by being better than others. You rise by being better than who you were yesterday, by choosing growth over comfort, by refusing to settle for a version of life that doesn't excite your soul. The people who live fully don't have less fear. They just have more courage, or more conviction, more trust in what they feel than in what the world tells them to believe. You don't need a map. You need a mission. When your why is strong enough, you'll figure out the how. Obstacles become steps. Setbacks become lessons. And every no becomes a redirection, not a rejection. The universe doesn't withhold success from you. It waits for you to become someone who can handle it. And that becoming is in your hands.
This is not about chasing happiness.
It's about stepping into alignment. When you align your values with your actions, your life becomes magnetic. Not overnight, but inevitably, because you're no longer fighting against yourself. You're no longer pretending. You're rooted. And when you're rooted in truth, you become unshakable. You don't just work harder. You work smarter, deeper, and with greater clarity. You attract opportunities because you're clear on who you are and what you stand for. The noise falls away. The distractions lose their power. And suddenly, you're not chasing anything. You're simply becoming who you were always meant to be. You are the author, the builder, the spark. Stop looking for signs. Be the sign. The world is waiting, not for someone perfect, but for someone real, someone brave enough to rise, to begin, to keep going. That someone is you.